So there's something satisfying about watching crime in media. Breaking Bad taught us that a life of crime isn't worth it. The Town presented us with a realistic take on it all, and many other movies have used crime as a theme throughout their stories. Crime has and probably always will be a fairly popular theme throughout fiction, and you can't say none of this is true because movies like Goodfellas, The Godfather, and The Departed, these are all considered very respectable films. And what do all of these movies have in common? Well, they take quite mature takes on crime in general. Masterminds doesn't quite take that approach. I'm Jack Fitzpatrick and this is my review of Masterminds. So loosely based on a true story, we follow Zach Galifianakis' character, who pretty much gets sort of tricked, sort of persuaded into robbing from an armoured truck from the company that he works in. And from here, the rest of the movie is basically just him on the run from the law and how this all affects everybody around him. So to put it simply, Masterminds just isn't that great. The thing is though that I don't think anybody was expecting a masterpiece. I sure as hell wasn't. And so in the end, the movie really wasn't that bad either. It was fairly funny when it tried, and it even got some laughs out of me, though much of the humor was quite juvenile. One thing that I appreciated about the movie though is that it definitely knew what it was. It was just a straight up comedy and didn't try to be anything more. It was dumb, but it was fun enough. However, it certainly wasn't all enjoyable. Some of the gags definitely came off as quite cringeworthy, and I found it kind of disappointing in a movie that I think could have been much better, especially considering the talent behind it. With a little more time and a little more care put into it, I think that this actually could have been pretty great. Speaking of the talent though, Masterminds really relied on the cast. Unfortunately though, this didn't always quite work. Things like relying on Zach Galifianakis having dumb hair and looking kind of silly. Well, it's just not an effective joke. Like, you'll see him staring awkwardly and it'll just look kind of weird, and that's supposed to be very funny. And in context it can be, but I felt like the movie definitely just relied on the kind of visual look of him being funny, and it didn't quite work for me. It's here that we realize that we've seen all of this before. You know, we've seen Galifianakis play the big idiot before, we've seen Krista Wiig being awkward, and for the love of God, we've seen Kate McKinnon be quirky and weird. Fuck, I get it. You're the weirdest person in the world. I'm not a fan of her, sorry. Please don't kill me for saying that. The performances and general tone of the movie are so over the top that the whole thing feels like kind of a cartoon. But I wouldn't say that this is a bad thing in any way. It often didn't shy away from the wacky or the zany, and it seemed like it really embraced its unrealism. In fact, I kind of have to give this movie props for being probably the most unrealistic movie that heavily claims itself to be based on a true story. Then again, I'm not sure how accurate to life this movie is. I'd guess probably not very. Another mentional aspect to the film is just how busy it is. There's so much going on. One thing consistently leads to another, and I remained pretty intrigued. I wanted to see where it was going. And speaking of busy, there were also an abundant amount of characters in this movie, and most of these characters, maybe all of them, are actually even fairly likable. This movie didn't lack any personality, and in this way, Masterminds is kind of respectably in depth for such an inherently stupid movie. There was only some care put into the characters, and you could tell that they had a bit of fun with this. They tried to be as funny as they possibly could. That being said though, I think that maybe the movie tried a little too hard. At times it seemed like it was afraid to slow down. And in this way, the movie could, in a weird way, kind of be patronizing. Like if the movie did slow down for a second, we would just completely lose interest. Speaking of the comedy and the likable characters though, I would say that Jason Sudeikis' Hitman character was probably the highlight of the movie for me. In my opinion, I'd say that he actually stole the show. Every scene that he was in, I was just laughing. In the end though, Masterminds was pretty forgettable. However, I had a good enough time, and I can't exactly say I disliked it. You know, it wasn't particularly great, but it was far from the worst movie I've seen all year. Grimsby! Masterminds provided a surprising amount of laughs, some genuinely likable characters, and in the end was just a completely inoffensive, harmless comedy. I would rate Masterminds a 6.5 out of 10. So let me know what you thought about the movie, let me know what you thought about the review, and you know, like, comment, share, subscribe. Did I forget any other keywords there? Do any of those things that you can do. I would really appreciate it. And let's try and make this channel grow a little bit. Should I have a signature outro now? Bye. That won't be it.